I wasn't planning to go out that night. Deadlines loomed. Edits waited. Life felt safer in the familiar silence of my apartment. But then, a knock at the door. A simple envelope left behind. No handwriting. No return address. Just one small package tucked inside. A black evening gown. And a card. You're invited. Tonight. 9 p.m. The Hollow Room. No RSVP. No instructions. No explanation. I almost laughed. Was this some elaborate prank? Some desperate marketing stunt? But something about it. The mystery, the challenge, stirred something inside me. Growing up, I devoured every Nancy Drew novel I could find. I never believed in ghosts or curses. Mysteries had answers. And I always found them. So maybe tonight would be just another puzzle. Another story to prove that logic always wins. Tell me honestly. Would you have gone? By 8:30 p.m., I zipped myself into the gown, half laughing at the absurdity. If this was some strange prank, I was at least going to look good walking into it. The Hollow Room was even stranger than I expected. A grand old ballroom, fraying at the edges but still clinging to its former beauty. Crystal chandeliers flickered overhead, throwing soft, uneven light across the velvet curtains and marble floors. Guests mingled with glasses of champagne, laughter echoing against the stone. At first, I thought I'd slipped in unnoticed. Just another face in the glittering crowd. But then I noticed something. 5 of us stood out. 5 strangers in evening gowns and sharp suits, all carrying the same faint stiffness. All too alert, too poised. Our eyes met more than once. Quick glances, barely concealed curiosity. Each of us searching the others for answers. Something about it felt deliberate. Like pieces placed carefully on a board before the first move. Still, I tried to blend in. Sip my drink. Study the scene. And just when I convinced myself I was being paranoid, the lights dimmed sharply. The music died mid-note. A voice, smooth and theatrical, cut through the hush. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's game." A murmur rippled through the crowd. The 5 of us shifted, exchanging wary looks. "Among you stand 5 minds," the voice continued, amused, famous in small circles for their certainty that no mystery is too complex, no puzzle too deep. Some guests chuckled lightly. Most turned to stare, subtle at first, then openly. "And so," the voice said, almost purring now, "let's find out which of you can solve the one mystery that matters tonight. Before it's too late." I know how it sounds. A secret ballroom. A theatrical voice. 5 clever guests singled out in a crowd. It does sound like something from a movie, doesn't it? But I was there. And nothing about it felt fictional in the moment. The music returned, softer this time. The guests tried to resume their conversations, but the energy had shifted. People kept glancing at us. The 5 detectives. I caught a woman's eye across the room. She was maybe in her 40s, in a silver dress and a sharp bob. We gave each other a brief, knowing nod. Neither of us smiled. Then came the moment that changed everything. A tray crashed to the ground near the bar. Not loud, but enough to make people flinch. A waiter bent down to pick up broken glass, muttering an apology. No big deal, until someone asked, "Where's the man in the red tie? Wasn't he just standing there?" Heads turned. Some shrugged. Others looked around. No one could say for sure. He'd been here, yes. Tall, mid-30s, dark hair, red silk tie. I remembered noticing him earlier. He'd been watching the room, not drinking, not talking much. But now, he was gone. No one had seen him leave. The host's voice returned, smooth and calm. "And so it begins." I wanted to believe it was still just a game. But the look in the eyes of the woman in silver said otherwise. She looked at me like I might know what to do next. Like I was already involved. And maybe I was. No one said the word missing. Not yet. But the tension was unmistakable. The music played on, too soft now, like it didn't belong in the same room with us anymore. A waiter offered champagne. No one reached for it. I moved toward the bar, pretending to look for a refill. Really, I was watching, faces, gestures, the corner where the man in the red tie had been. Nothing was roped off. No sign of a struggle. Just a half-empty glass left on a tall table. A woman nearby whispered to her partner. Maybe he just stepped outside. But no one had seen him do that. And there was only one entrance, guarded, subtly but deliberately. I found the woman in the silver dress again. She was scanning the room too, now more openly. We weren't the only ones noticing the silence where someone used to be. Then came the voice again, this time closer, as if it were no longer overhead but right among us. We often say people vanish without a trace, it said. But is that ever true? Or do we simply not know what to look for? There was no announcement, no name called, no panic. Just an invitation. Unspoken, but clear. I turned to the woman in silver and murmured. Did you know him? She shook her head. No. But I think we're meant to find him. I nodded once. She didn't offer her name. Neither did I. And yet, we were already a team. Because when 5 people are silently called out for their minds, you don't wait for permission. You start working. The glass he left behind was still sweating from the cold. No lipstick. No smudges. But the napkin underneath. That was something else. It looked untouched at first glance. Folded neatly, the kind bartenders place under a drink without a thought. But as I reached for it, I saw it had been rotated. Twice. Clockwise. There was a faint gray fingerprint smudged on the corner. Not from dirt. Graphite. Like someone had been holding a pencil or writing. I picked it up carefully. Beneath it, the condensation had left behind a faint outline. A single word scribbled onto the wood of the cocktail table. Almost invisible unless you knew to look. Second. I stared at it for a moment, then looked up. The woman in silver had noticed. Second, what? She asked quietly. I shook my head. Could be anything. Second guest? Second room? Second choice? She bit her lip. I checked the restrooms, he's not there. And there's no staff hallway behind the curtains. Just a locked service door. Someone else from our unspoken group approached. A younger guy in a navy suit with a watch too expensive for this kind of game. You two look like you're thinking too hard, he said. I didn't answer. Instead, I glanced toward the entrance. Still guarded. Still closed. No announcements. No reactions from the other guests. Was this all just part of the experience? I wanted to believe it was a performance. A carefully staged escape room with champagne. But something told me. This wasn't planned. At least, not by everyone in the room. We didn't plan to meet. No one said, let's gather. But within 30 minutes of the disappearance, the 5 of us, me, the woman in the silver dress, the guy with the expensive watch, the stern man in his 50s, and a younger girl with a sharp pixie cut, all ended up near the same corner of the ballroom. Right by the door marked staff only. Is anyone else getting the sense we're not just guests? The girl asked. Her voice was calm. Steady. She'd already made up her mind. We looked at each other. The woman in silver gave a small nod. He left something. A word. Second. She glanced at me for confirmation. I added, on the table near the bar. There was graphite on the napkin. Looked like he was writing, or being told to. Or he was forced to, the older man muttered. His voice was low, firm. He didn't waste words. The guy in the suit shrugged. I didn't see him disappear. But I did notice the security guard at the entrance turned away for 10 seconds. Exactly when the lights dimmed. That wasn't an accident. The girl leaned forward. And it's not just security. I asked one of the waitresses if I could step outside for some air. The way she looked at me, like I'd stepped out of character. Silence. Realization settled in, cold and quiet. We hadn't been invited here to celebrate anything. We weren't guests. We were part of something. Players. Or pawns. And while the rest of the room laughed and posed under the chandeliers, we stood in the corner, trying to map out what was really happening. None of us said it out loud, but we were all staring at the same thing. The door. Staff only. It didn't look locked. No keypad. No chain. Just a simple handle, worn from use. The girl with the pixie cut stepped forward first. Either it's part of the act, she said, or someone didn't plan on us paying attention. She glanced back at us, half a challenge, half a question. Then she tried the handle. It opened. No alarms. No flash of lights. Just the soft sound of hinges and a narrow hallway beyond. Concrete floors. Exposed pipes. Dim lighting that flickered slightly with every second bulb. She stepped in. The woman in silver followed. So did I. We moved quietly, listening. Far from the music. Far from the polished floors and champagne glasses. There were no staff back here. No extra chairs. No catering trays. Just an unsettling kind of emptiness. Like this space had been cleared, cleaned. Prepared. See this? The man in his 50s pointed at a wall. A single camera. Blinking. Recording. The hallway turned sharply to the left. But before we could follow, we heard footsteps. Not ours. From deeper inside. Then silence. The girl froze. We all did. She looked at me. You believe in logic, right? She whispered. No ghosts. No tricks. Just reason. I nodded. Then what's the reasonable explanation? She asked. For 5 strangers being brought here and one of us already gone. No one had an answer. We followed the turn in the hallway. The air was cooler back here. Drier. Everything felt too controlled. At the end of the corridor, we reached a door slightly ajar. No name. No label. Just a pale yellow light leaking from inside. The man in his 50s pushed it open first. We stepped into a small room. Not much larger than an office. And there it was. A table. 5 folders. Stacked neatly. No dust. No clutter. Just intention. Each folder had a name. Mine was on top. Full name. Spelled correctly. No one spoke. I reached for mine slowly. Inside, a printout of my old blog posts from when I was 23. Photos from public lectures. Screenshots from my social media accounts. The others opened theirs too. Same thing. Articles they'd written. Clips from conferences. Public records. Not invasive. But specific. Curated. This isn't random, the woman in silver murmured. They knew who we were. They knew we'd show up. The girl with the pixie cut looked up. Or, they knew we wouldn't be able to resist. I closed the folder. The inside cover had one line typed in small, sharp font. The first disappearance is only the beginning. My stomach turned. Someone had planned this. Not for fun. Not for some casual evening twist. But for something else. The lights in the hallway flickered again. None of us moved. The door behind us slowly clicked shut. The soft click of the door echoed louder than it should have. We froze for a second. Instinct telling all of us the same thing. We weren't alone anymore. The girl with the pixie cut pressed her ear against the door. Nothing. Just the distant hum of music, muffled by walls thick enough to keep the two worlds. The guests and us. Completely separate. They don't know, she said quietly. Everyone out there, They have no idea what's happening back here. The woman in silver nodded. It's deliberate. We're isolated now. The ones who noticed are being watched. Tested. The man with the expensive watch was flipping through his folder faster now. Look at this, he muttered, holding up a page. It was a photo of the man in the red tie. Taken from what looked like a surveillance camera. Timestamped, an hour before the party even started. They knew he was going to disappear, I said. No one argued. We weren't reacting anymore. We were thinking. Calculating. They're not after all the guests, the man in his 50s said. Just us. And maybe him, the woman added, tapping the photo of the man in the red tie. The music outside swelled briefly. Laughter spilled through the cracks in the door. Normalcy, pretending to be real. But now we knew better. Someone had staged the party to look perfect. To hide the real event happening just beneath the surface. And we were running out of time to figure out why. For a long moment, none of us spoke. The quiet between us wasn't hesitation. It was calculation. Everyone weighing the same question. Do we stay hidden, or step back into their world? The woman in silver was the first to break the silence. If we stay back here too long, she said, voice steady. They'll know we're onto them. That we're not just playing along. The man with the expensive watch frowned. If they didn't want us involved, they wouldn't have left the folders where we could find them. They wanted us to know, the pixie cut girl agreed. But not everything. Just enough to make us choose. I glanced down at the folders again. Our lives. Pieces of who we were, assembled and dissected for someone else's purpose. They're counting on ego, I said out loud, thinking more than speaking. Counting on us needing to prove we're smarter than the game. The older man leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. They're also counting on fear. On us second-guessing every move. He wasn't wrong. No matter which choice we made. It was a move on their board. The woman in silver straightened her shoulders. We walk back out, she said, calm and deliberate. We play the guests again. Smile. Dance. Drink. And, the guy asked. And we watch, she said. Closer than before. The girl with the pixie cut smiled thinly. No more second-guessing. I tucked my folder under my arm. I wasn't sure if it was the right move. Maybe it was already too late to make a right move. But standing still was worse. So we pushed open the staff-only door. Walked back into the glittering ballroom. Back into the lights. Back into the performance. Pretending we still believed it was a party. Knowing it never really was. We slipped back into the ballroom like nothing had happened. No one stopped us. No one even looked twice. The chandeliers still cast their golden light. The music still flowed, polished and charming. But under it all, the rhythm of the night had changed. Because now, we were watching too. I drifted toward the champagne table, pretending to study the selection. Really, I was scanning faces. Movements. Patterns. The woman in silver circled along the outer edge of the crowd. The pixie-cut girl lingered near the band. The guy with the expensive watch made his way toward the makeshift bar, casually chatting up a bartender. The older man just stood near the entrance, arms folded, eyes heavy, like he was daring someone to approach him. We didn't need a plan. Instinct was enough. It didn't take long to notice. Not everyone here was celebrating. A woman in a green velvet dress stood too still, smiling at no one. Two men near the back whispered without drinks in their hands, their eyes flicking across the room like security cameras. And near the stage, a man with silver hair tapped his fingers in a rhythm that didn't match the music. He wasn't nervous. He was counting. Something. I caught the woman in silver's eye across the crowd. She gave a tiny, imperceptible nod. She saw it too. None of the ordinary guests noticed. They were busy dancing, laughing, pretending it was all perfectly normal. But for us, the ballroom had split into two worlds. The performers. and the ones pulling the strings. And somewhere between them, hidden in the glow of crystal and champagne, the missing man. Still out there, waiting to be found. Or used. We didn't need to huddle and plan. Each of us moved naturally, fluidly, following the same instinct. Start small. Apply pressure. Watch for cracks. The man in the expensive watch was the first to act. He wandered toward the two men whispering by the back wall. Laughing lightly, he struck up a conversation about the catering. Something harmless. Something normal. One of the men smiled too quickly. The other barely glanced at him. Their shoulders stiffened. Barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. The woman in silver drifted past the woman in the green velvet dress, pretending to adjust her bracelet. She accidentally bumped into her. Apologized with a warm smile. The woman in green smiled back. But the smile was wrong. Tight at the corners. Rehearsed. Near the band, the pixie cut girl leaned against a pillar, tapping a casual rhythm along with the music. But her eyes were moving, measuring distances. Marking exits. I made my way to the bar. The silver-haired man tapping his fingers was standing nearby. Still counting, I realized. But to what? Or to when? I asked the bartender for water. Then casually asked where the restrooms were. Simple question. Everyone asks it at parties. The bartender blinked. Paused half a second too long. Then pointed. Not toward the hallways we'd explored, but toward a side door I hadn't noticed before. Far too discreet for a restroom. Too guarded. I thanked him, smiled, and moved away. That pause told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't a bartender. At least, not one hired to serve drinks. Across the room, I caught the woman in silver's gaze again. We didn't need words. We were building the map together, piece by careful piece. And the next move? It was coming soon. Because when you know you're being watched, and you watch them back, it's only a matter of time before someone makes the first real mistake. It was the woman in the green velvet dress we chose first. Not because she was the most suspicious. Not because she had slipped up badly. But because she was the weakest link. She looked like she wanted to be invisible. And that made her the easiest pressure point. The woman in silver and I approached her together, slowly, weaving through the crowd as if we were simply two strangers making polite small talk. At the last moment, the pixie cut girl joined us, feigning surprise like she'd bumped into old friends. Natural. Effortless. The woman in green smiled again. Tight, wrong, the same mistake. We were just saying how strange it is, the woman in silver began, voice light and breezy. How easy it would be to get lost in a place like this. The woman in green's hand twitched at her side. Barely. But I suppose security's tight enough, I added, tilting my head casually. That no one could just slip away unnoticed. Right? For a moment, her expression didn't change. But something in her posture shifted. A fractional recoil, as if she wanted to step back but couldn't. That's right, she said smoothly, almost too smoothly. The hosts, they planned everything perfectly. The hosts. Not the host. Plural. It wasn't a mistake of grammar. It was knowledge, too casual to fake. The pixie cut girl caught it too. I could see it in the slight tightening of her jaw. We let the silence stretch just a beat too long. Not enough to raise alarm. Just enough to make her sweat under the weight of it. Then we smiled. Thanked her. And walked away. No accusations. No direct threats. But the look she gave our backs. Tight, watchful, calculating. Told us everything. We were getting closer. And whoever the hosts were, they knew it. We didn't celebrate the small win. No high fives. No whispered plans. Just a quiet understanding. We pushed. She bent. Someone noticed. The music swelled louder for a moment, as if the band had been instructed to cover something up. A little too loud. A little too cheerful. Forced. That's when I saw it. Near the edge of the dance floor. Past the velvet ropes where the lighting grew thin. The silver-haired man, the one who had been counting, was moving. Not casually. Not like someone stretching their legs or looking for a better seat. Purposefully. He didn't head for the bar. He didn't head for the restrooms. He angled toward the discreet side door the fake bartender had pointed me to earlier. The one that didn't make sense. I shifted my position just enough to catch the woman in silver's eye again. A tilt of my head was enough. She followed my gaze. Nodded once. The others moved too, each in their own way, careful not to draw attention. The silver-haired man reached the side door. He tapped something into a small keypad tucked behind a curtain. It buzzed softly. He slipped through. Gone. No one around him noticed. The crowd kept dancing. The laughter rolled on. But we had seen it. Every second of it. There was more than just one missing guest. More than just a game to test clever minds. Someone was already moving pieces off the board. Right now. Right in front of us. And the clock was running out. No words were needed. The decision passed between us like static in the air. We follow. Now. The woman in silver moved first, gliding past the tables with the grace of someone heading to powder her nose. I waited 5 seconds, then followed. The others peeled off too, spaced out just enough not to be obvious. At the side door, the keypad still buzzed faintly, like the system hadn't reset yet. The woman in silver pressed her hand lightly against the door. It gave way. We slipped through one by one. The hallway beyond was darker, colder, quieter. The walls were bare concrete. No paintings. No lights except for a faint glow deeper down. The door swung closed behind us with a dull click. We were out of the ballroom now. Out of the safe zone. And whatever game they had set in motion. We were inside it now. The corridor split ahead. To the left, a faint murmur of voices. To the right, silence and shadow. The woman in silver looked at me. Left or right? It was a choice without a guarantee. I chose left. Because silence hides nothing, but whispers. Whispers meant movement. Plans. Mistakes. We moved quietly. The woman in silver. The pixie-cut girl. The man with the expensive watch. The older man. And me. Together. For now. At the end of the hallway, we reached a set of glass doors. Beyond them, a small control room. Monitors lined the walls. Live feeds. Ballroom. Parking lot. Hallways. Including one feed showing the man in the red tie. Alive. Tied to a chair. In a dim, windowless room. A second man, one we hadn't seen before, stood nearby, talking into a headset. We barely breathed. Everything we thought we knew about tonight. The games, the riddles, the clever taunts. Collapsed into something colder. Sharper. This wasn't entertainment. It was control. Surveillance. Leverage. And now we had a choice that was no longer theoretical. Get out and save ourselves. Or stay, and try to pull him out too.